So first things first, Bobby, how are you?
I'm all right. I'm good. Just got back from America yesterday, so I'm feeling a little bit strange, a bit tired, but other than that, I feel good. Yeah, thanks a lot. How are you?
I'm not too bad at all, not too bad at all. Now, you mentioned America, which is interesting because I wanted to kind of talk about the tour you did with Royal Blood to begin with, because at, at the inception of this band, the whole idea was we're just going to record music, we're not going to tour, and then a couple of years later, you're touring through the US with Royal Blood. What kind of
Well, if
whirlwind
by a
has
couple
that
of years
been?
you mean 9 years, yeah.
Well, fair
Um,
enough.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know. We just when we'd done the songs, we liked them so much that we thought let's try and play them, and then yeah, things got a bit out of hand, and now we're here touring, touring America. It's pretty crazy, really. It's great though, great adventure.
Yeah, well, that's the thing because as a starting musician or as a young, even a young enjoyer of music, you kind of romanticize these things, tour, being able
Yeah,
to tour America. So, first
I
of
know.
all, what was your vision of what that would entail, and what was the reality of it?
To be honest, I don't think I'd really envisioned too much about what it would be like to tour America. Because it was never. I thought that ship had sailed many years ago. Um, but in reality, though, it's great. The people in America that come to the shows are all fantastic. We meet a lot of really great music fans out there. Um, yeah, it's great. It's a very big country. Is one thing I'm
Sure,
realizing. I'd never really grasped quite how big it is. We've driven all across Europe. And like you can drive from virtually one end of Europe to the other in about 16 hours or so. I don't know, something
sure,
maybe less. But you can drive through a lot of countries in Europe in one day, is my point. But in America, you drive for 10 hours and you've not even made it across one state. It's absolutely crazy. It's sort of so the you do have to get used to if you, unless you're on a tour bus, you have to get used to the sitting in a van for a long time before you play an actual gig, which can be a bit strange to get used to. But yeah, on the whole though, it's amazing, to be able to go and play in your originals band in America to big crowds, like certainly
sure.
to most of the crowds we play to are pretty. We played some smaller shows as well, which were just as good. But we're very yeah, very lucky. Royal Blood obviously took us out on our first American tour, and we kind of, in a debt to them really, because they were the ones that took us on tour when we didn't have, or when nobody else
Mhm.
would, at least nobody of their size. We had a,
Sure.
a load of really cool bands take us out on tour prior to that, but they weren't of the same stature as Royal Blood, so they yeah, and that was kind of the catalyst for everything that's happened really. They're going on tour that first time with them. So yeah, it's really crazy, I just want to enjoy it whilst I can, really. And hopefully it will last long enough for me to be able to buy some food.
But you mentioned something very interesting, and then the Royal Blood guys taking a chance on you guys are kind of, and there have been very vocal supporters of the band. Billy Joe Armstrong from
Yeah,
Green Day and the Darkness, who you
yeah.
toured with. What is that like to have kind of these public figures kind of enjoy what you do, and why do you think so many people can latch on to what you do?
I mean, it's obviously it's really exciting, when you hear we're at that stage now where every week somebody is following our band on social media who is known, and it's
Sure.
quite a strange. I mean, it's great, It's nice because a lot of these people are musicians, and songwriters and whatnot. So it kind of gives you a bit of a validation, and it's not a validation that we were seeking, but certainly one that it's just nice. It's nice, especially when
Yeah.
you get people like Billy Joe. I mean, he's in Green Day for fuck's sake, I mean, it's like about probably one of the biggest, best bands on the planet. So like it's pretty crazy, at least of that genre,
Sure.
Yes, it feels awesome, what was the next bit of it? How does it feel? I can't remember what the next bit was.
Well, basically, how it feels to have that kind of support, and but kind of the next question would then be to did that offer any pressure or and even just the being able to tour with Royal Blood and
Mm.
kind of the fact that people are listening now when as you are writing album number
Yeah,
two,
yeah.
did that play a part?
I mean, it does. It can get in your head a bit when you're trying to write a second album, definitely. Uh, but for the most part, I sort of realized quite quickly whilst writing the second album that the only thing you can do with writing anyway is to just do what comes naturally, like
Mm,
just whatever. I think as much as fans of bands will often say, myself included, I've been like this before as well. Like we want to hear, I want to hear an album just like the one that I love, the one that came before it. But in reality, I think the best thing you can actually do for fans of your band is to do whatever you personally think is good, or whatever I personally think is good, for my band. And
sure.
because that's all we did with the first one. We just did what we thought was good, and people liked it. So we just try to do the same thing again. It's not exactly the same as the first one. It has a lot of similarities to the first one, but it also has things that are a bit different. It's from the first one. And I think that's quite important. Um, yeah,
Oh no, am I right in saying that kind of the songs initially start with you? You kind of hide yourself away for a little while
Mm.
and write all
yeah.
these songs?
I mean, with this album it was very much just me writing it. To be honest, this time. I mean, we had I think Will and George put a few little lead bits over some bits here and there. Will did some really cool lead bits in Antidote, and You Should Know did some cool lead bits. Them guys did put a few little bits over the top at the end. But this album was, yeah, pretty much just me this time, just because we didn't really have time
Mm,
to do the first one. Me and Will jammed in this room,
okay.
just drums and guitar, and we would try and like do rough structures, just me and him together in the room. And then I would go on my computer later on and sort of try and turn them into like songs. But we
Sure.
didn't have a chance to do that this time just because Will was working basically in the week, and then at the weekends we had a lot of gigs. So yeah, so it was that was a bit weird because then like the pressure. If people don't like this album, you can see how people could be like, well, maybe it's because he did it all himself, like, but or, I don't care, you know.
What I find interesting then is what kind of mindset do you go in as as you are writing these songs, and what kind of do you kind of cut yourself off from the world, or do you have to engage with the
Yeah.
world to be able to write, or what's your mindset
Mm.
as you are
I mean,
writing?
I find like the isolation is better, to be honest. The thing is, like, what I find hard is that like once I go into that zone, the zone is in my mind, so it doesn't like I don't leave that. It's like I'll come home
Right.
from the studio, and I'll be, if I'm with friends or girlfriend or whatever, whoever I'm with, in when I'm doing that, it's like I'm not there, because
Mm,
I'll go home and I'll still be thinking about whatever it is I'm trying to do, and I'll think about it non-stop. I'll wake up in the night thinking about it. Like it's like you just get not trapped. I mean, it's a nice trap. I like being in
sure,
that,
sure.
but obviously it doesn't lend itself well to anything outside of that because people just think you're, away with the fairies. You're not present because you're living inside your thoughts. So it's great, but it's quite for me anyway. It's quite consuming. It consumes you, especially when you're working on songs that didn't come out exactly how you wanted straight away.
Mm,
You have to like work out, like in with the analytical mind. Because the problem is when you're in the creative flow, that's when things are easy. You're just doing what comes naturally. But then when you actually go, then you look at it with your like analytical mind and be like, okay,
sure.
this doesn't feel right. I think this needs to change. And then you start trying to change things. It can that's when it gets difficult because you're working on something kind of not in the creative flow state, which is that's when it gets really difficult. But yeah, no, it's yeah, I like to just be alone, really. I like
Fair
to be
enough.
that's it's the thing I enjoy most about being in a band, I like playing live and stuff, but the thing I really love is just being in this room. you know.
And just
Uh,
creating.
yeah, that's just the funnest part, I think. Well, playing live is really fun as well, don't get me wrong, but it's a totally different thing.
Oh yeah.
So it is creative to an extent, but it's not creative in the same way. It's like making something from scratch. Like it's creative in the sense of performance, and whatever. But
Sure.
the actual song crafting is the thing that I really like the most.
Well,
Um,
let's dive in a little bit deeper then. You mentioned just now sometimes you have a vision for that song and it doesn't immediately come out. So, which song on the album can we delve into that gave you a bit of trouble as you were working on it?
I mean, the ones that gave me trouble were the longer ones, actually.
Okay.
Television, you should know by now. Kids will never have their say, because when you're doing a shorter song, you can get to the end of it whilst you're still in the creative flow state. Like I said,
Mm,
you can get to the end of it and it's all come out in that sort of pretty much how you want it. Whereas like those longer songs, because they don't follow a formulaic structure, not in the traditional sense.
mhm,
It's more done like television. Well, yeah, all of them were done purely just on feel. Like as I'm doing it, I was like, what do I feel like wants to come next? And because they were longer and a bit more complicated, they didn't all come out in that one session or whatever. Like they didn't come out in one go. So then I have to sort of come back and try and plug myself back into what I was feeling originally, and then you go again, and then the more time it takes, the further away you get from the creative flow. You're more slipping into the thing of I've got used to this part now, but I know at first this part was boring, but now I've got used to it. I don't know if it is boring, and now I'm not sure how it connects
mm.
to that bit. And then it's like because you were working on feel, but the further you get away from the original feeling, the more fucking confusing it gets. So it's that's something I always do whenever I'm doing a song that doesn't get done straight away, but I know I want to finish because it has a lot of cool parts. I try to always take note of how it feels to me right then in that moment. So
Mm,
that's like with television, like there's a whole part of it, the whole second half of it, basically, I was working on for ages. Because I always knew it felt like it dragged to me. It got a bit boring. So I got used to it eventually, and everybody else I played to it had gotten used to it, and everyone liked it. And I was like, it's still not right. So I was tearing that song apart for, yeah, honestly, for months and months and months. And I finally got it to a place where I wanted it because I loved the whole first half and I loved the end half, and there's this big bit in the middle that I couldn't figure out. And
mm,
the problem was because I was doing it on feeling and I wasn't doing it like with a technical mind. Like I wasn't counting bars or anything like that, how long things need to be. And like in order for the last section of that song to hit properly, there has to be a certain amount of bars or whatever things played before it so that the tension has built up so that it drops into that end part and you feel the release. Because if
mm.
the tension release is like not right, it's just that's what it's all about. I find with songs generally, but particularly longer ones. Like the tension has to build so that when you drop, into whatever bit it is, whether it's a chorus or whatever, you have to feel that sense of relief or release. Like so that is hard when you're like I said, when you're not in that technical mindset. And
Sure.
that was the hardest one. But the kids was the same because I wasn't trying to stick to any structure. I was just wanting to do whatever I felt was whatever I wanted to hear. Like, oh, I don't want to hear a chorus there. Let's do something. Let's do a little guitar solo or something. Just like completely winging it. But that was difficult because the end, I didn't know where to go at the end, and I had this part. It's a similar story, but just it wasn't
Sure.
quite as complex because television is just God, it's just fucking mental. Such a mental song.
But
But yeah, so that was probably the hardest one.
on the flip side, then the album starts with "Don't Stop," "Antidote," and "USA" all under 2 minutes. So are those then? Do they just fall out?
Yeah, I mean, "Don't Stop" didn't just fall out because that was originally a much shorter song. That song was one
Okay.
minute long originally. Um,
Sure.
it just had the first bit, which was the breakdown, it had that sort of bit, and then it just went straight into the end bit. That's how it used to be. So then I built in the whole middle part, a few years after I'd done that original demo, because I had a phase of just wanting to literally trying to write 1 minute long songs. It was almost like an experiment. I was like, I'm just going to try and write something really catchy that's no longer than like a minute, maybe a bit longer or whatever. And that's where that came from. It's just two sections. And then later on,
Mm.
I took it and I built two more sections in the middle of it to sort of break it up and end up being one of my favorite songs, actually. But USA kind of just fell out once I had that riff. I that I knew I just wanted to do a song that was like "dun-dun-dun." You know, it's like a classic thing, isn't it? Like you hear it in so many
Sure.
songs. "Dun-dun-dun." "Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun." I wanted to do something like that, and I wanted to do a chorus that was really bouncy, similar to I was thinking of that song "Borstal Breakout" by Sham 69. Like, there's gonna be a Borstal breakout, gonna be a Borstal break. It's like really something really simple. So it was kind of easy, that one, really. Like the structure will just I just kind of instinctively knew where I wanted it to go. And what was the other one? You got the nerve. You got the nerve did kind of just come out, but I did pull that around. No, wait, what's the other one? Wait,
Antidote,
antidote. Sorry.
antidote.
Antidote. That was because that's a normal, more of a normal structure, even though it's not normal because it's so fast and like,
Mm.
the actual structure of that is completely formulaic, it's like intro, verse, chorus, verse, chorus, middle eight, chorus, end, and an outro. So it's like it's totally normal structure. So in that sense, that was really easy as well because once I had the chorus and the verse, I just fucking duplicated it. I was like, oh, let's do that again, and because it felt like I wanted to hear it again. Sometimes the formulas work really well. Sometimes you have a song where it's like this feels like it would lend itself well to the a formula that people will recognize. But other times it doesn't. Other times you just want to go completely off. you know.
Sure.
So yeah, that one was pretty easy as well. I mean, I did that one in a day, at least the rough demo.
Okay.
Um, and then I sort of changed things when we did the main recording. I tweaked things like the second chorus sounds different, guitars are ringing out, there's slightly different melody. Make those little detail changes later on in the actual recording. But yeah, the demo, yeah, just fell out really.
Okay.
Like I said, the quick ones because they're quick. You can get to the end before you fall out of the thing and you start to get tired and you want to go and have dinner. Like before all those
Mm.
intrusive dinner time thoughts start coming
Distractions.
in. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, because it does. Once you get hungry, that's it. But yeah,
No,
no,
I find it really cool to hear, and kind of with the type of music that you make, the speed of it, the urgency, the immediacy, I suppose. Um, in part, that's I guess inherent to the type of music that you make, kind of the genres that you're in. But what is your philosophy on kind of cutting the fat and how a song should be, and whether all the bells and whistles that can be
yeah,
put on
yeah. I mean, it's similar. It's a similar answer in a way. I guess
there? Okay.
I don't care how long or short a song is, in terms of like the actual time code,
Hmm.
All I care about is like, does it feel long or does it feel short? Like when it ends, do I want to hear it again or do I want it to continue? Like there's like two different things really.
Sure.
Um, it's like we don't stop, that's just it's four separate parts basically, four separate sections that all go into each other. But it to me anyway, it resolves itself. The end is quite obviously the end. If I tried to go somewhere else again after that, I don't think it would feel right. So but I do think people should look at their songs, any genre really, and like just ask if parts are necessary, And don't be wrong, and there's people who will listen to bad nerves and think, probably I definitely think television's too long, I'm sure. But so it is all subjective, but I can only go on what I feel and we all interpret things differently. But I do think if you have any inkling that a part in a song is dragging, it is, If you feel, oh, is this a bit not yeah, like then change it. Don't let yourself get used to it and then like be like, whatever, like because if you feel it and you're creating it, someone who didn't make it is going to feel it 10 times more.
Sure.
Because like, if you're feeling it on something you're creating that you love, then somebody who just hears it for the first time is going to find it boring, probably. Um,
With our attention spans these days.
well, that's the thing. We accidentally wrote really quick music in a very great time to do it. 'Cause, yeah, you're right. I think attention spans. The thing is, I feel it as well. Like
Oh,
I listen to bands, and I get bored so quickly. Like, and I don't think that is just because bands are boring. I think it is partly because, well, I'm just, yeah, I'm a victim of the
the internet
we live in
generation.
just as much as anyone else. I have to limit myself. The problem I find with technology, with your phones and whatever else, is that it's turned boredom into this really bad thing. Like you normally you'd get bored and you'd think what to do,
Sure.
like, or whatever. You'd go and do something. But now if you get bored, you can take your phone and it will lock you into what you think is entertainment. But it's actually just like this perpetual boredom that becomes addictive. Like imagine getting addicted to being bored. I mean, that's what it is. Like what that's like it'd be better to be addicted to drugs. At least you'd go and do something, like at
You
least
have
you'd
some
hang out
fun
with some
with it
people.
at least, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because like it does turn you into like a fucking
A
zombie,
zombie, yeah, yeah. It's crazy to see that, especially as you mentioned. I'm a little bit older. I'm
Mm.
37 now, but
Yeah.
even I noticed myself that my attention span has gotten a lot
Yeah.
shorter these days. Yeah.
Oh, 100%. Way shorter. It's like I felt it when I was doing the album, actually. When I first was trying to really focus on writing the second album, I couldn't pay attention. I kind of got ADHD like things going on as well, which doesn't
Mm.
help. But this like the phone and stuff makes it makes all of that 10 times worse.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I'll be like working on a song or trying to, and then I'll just think of something else. I'll go and make a coffee. I'll be like, oh, I'll make a coffee. I'll come back. And then I'll drink the coffee. And then I'll be like, oh, I'll just watch something on the internet whilst I drink this for a bit, just relax. And then I'll finish that. And then I'll start something. And then maybe I'll go on my phone. And before you know it, the whole fucking day's gone. And I'd get home and I'd be sitting there, I'd be thinking, oh my God, I can't focus, In my
Yeah.
focus is fucking destroyed. I had to like, work on getting it back. Because after COVID and all that sort of shit,
Yeah.
that's when I really started getting addicted to my phone because I was just smoking weed and playing computer games basically and going on my
Yeah.
phone. Just because I thought, oh fuck it, if the world's ending, I'm just gonna get stoned and whatever. But I didn't realize what that was doing to my fucking mind, like it was yeah,
But,
not
but,
good.
but with this in mind, because when it comes to the themes that you write about, and I don't know what your approach is or your views on the lyrics that you write, but for instance, what we're talking about, the kids will never have their say. It's kind of in that direction, right?
Which direction is that, sorry?
The themes of the album in kind of the YouTube generation and kind of
Oh right,
the
yeah. Yeah, yeah, a little bit. Like the first line is obviously is
yeah.
computer make my dog a star.
Yeah, and yeah,
Yeah.
you mentioned the rat race and kind of having to engage
Yeah.
in kind of just being, and I've thought about this a lot that you mentioned the COVID thing. The
Mm,
way young people have grown up in the last 5 years, let's say, it's insane. Uh, to
yeah.
get this back to you guys,
Yeah.
what is your approach to writing lyrics?
Yeah, I mean, like I like to write things that people don't I want people to be able to interpret songs themselves, and like have their own feeling from it. I don't want to be like super blunt about what I'm thinking. I like to dress it up in a way where it can have multiple meanings, because I
Mm,
think that's quite important for people listening to music to hear a lyric. If not everybody gives a shit about lyrics, but for the people that
sure.
do, it's nice to for them to hear something and they could if it's not too specific to me, then they can attach to it their own feeling or their own emotion, and I think that it really elevates a song, like if a band has a loads of lyrics and it's all very like on the nose, like this is what I think, this is what I do, then you can't connect. You can connect with it in a way, but it's almost quite sort of superficial,
Mm,
like, oh, I make a cup of tea, blah blah blah, in the morning, la la la, like sort of. There's no mystery there, like
mm,
whereas if you say something like, I don't know, what's the lyric in Kids Never say, life is a mystery sometimes, said the man in the T stuck in a TV show, like you think you know what that means, but it is not it's not really certain. Like it can be
mm,
interpreted like multiple ways, and
sure.
uh, and I like to do that with lyrics really because and I find it more poetic. It's like I'm trying to be a poet even though I'm not. Like I love when you read if you see a poem and it's really written really well and it really it hits you. It doesn't have to be a poem. It can be anything. Lyrics. It can be in a fucking script in a film. Like words. Or a speech from somebody. Somebody does a speech that has like power. Like there's a
Oh yeah.
power in words that is. magic, that can really, like, you put the right words in a sentence, you can make someone cry, like, well, not as in being horrible, but I mean in like a poetic way,
No, but
if you
certainly,
call
and
someone a cunt,
no,
but I
but
just mean,
you see that on the internet a lot, where you have these brilliant speeches or emotional, inspirational speeches, and they put a little Hans Zimmer under it, and it's just perfect.
oh
So
yeah,
it's
the one that I love is Charlie Chaplin one from
The Great Dictator.
yeah, yeah, that's it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
He does that speech and like, and then you're right. And when they put the fucking music underneath it as well, even more so. Like there's because I don't think it had music over it, the actual original from the film,
yeah.
but just the things he says, in that speech, and obviously the fact that he's dressed up like Hitler, there's
Well,
this whole like irony to it, and it's just yeah, it's just the way he says it, it gives you goosebumps, and
sure.
it makes you think about people. It makes you think about the world and what we're doing and how we're existing in society. And it's like, wow, it's overwhelming, but it's inspiring. I mean,
Mm.
I watch that like every few months. I probably watch that because I'm just like, oh, this is like, I want to be able to put something into words one day that can have that kind of impact.
Yeah,
Um,
I like that line. Our cleverness has made us hard and unkind. I really like that
yeah,
thing
yeah.
because it's
So
so
give me
true.
goosebumps. It's fucking
Yeah,
bang on. It's
but
so bang on, isn't it?
do you have then? This is kind of an unfair or kind of a mean question maybe to ask them. But do you have a lyric or a line of yourself that you're really proud of? That you think, well, I'm proud of
Mm,
myself of having thought of that, or
yeah. I mean, there are lyrics that I really like. I mean, the lyrics that I love. My favorite lyrics I've ever done are on. I think are probably on the first album on
okay.
Dreaming. There's a song called Dreaming. I always really liked the as I lie in my bed dreaming forever, dead but my love outlived me. I'm a line in your head, living like a wave, life after the gutter. That was always my favorite lyric of just because it was like the closest thing I'd got to something that was poetic and not really obvious, but to me anyway, had like real meaning. Like I managed to say what I wanted to say in a way that I thought was for my level of intellect, at least kind of kind of poetic, But there are loads of lines on the new album that I really love as well. Most of them are in television and kids will never have their say because kids will never have their say is quite that song. I wanted that song to be all the lines to be interesting,
Mm,
just like the life is a mystery sometimes. Said the man stuck in a TV show. I love that,
sure.
but I like most of the lines really. I can't, there's another line on television that I really like, which is am I losing my? Well, it's not that great actually, but it's am I losing my mind or am I losing my fear of it? Which I
Mm.
thought quite a nice line for what I was trying to say, given what that song is about. Yeah, but yeah, so probably on television and kids are my favorite lyrics on this album. I think. And so it's
Okay.
hard to think of all the lyrics in one go. I'm trying to think what.
I wrote a couple of lines down. From USA, I wrote down rock and roll is bad for their business.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
yeah. No, I like that line too. I forgot about that. Yeah, I prefer the back from the dead line in terms of singing it because it gets me going when I sing that. But yeah, the rock and roll is bad for their business because the protest music is like bad for governments. It's bad for the
mm,
system because we say things. Like 2 million people are incarcerated in America. That's fucking insane.
that's
2 million.
crazy.
It's the land of the free. I thought. Was
With the
it that?
most percentage of incarcerated
Yeah.
people in the world.
Yeah, it's fucked up. Like it's just I don't know. So I saw somebody say that was a really great modern political song, but it's funny because there's only like one it's only like two lines, two
Sure.
million prisoners is basically the only line that has any reference to anything political. So I was quite chuffed with how that came out in the end. I was like, fuck it. I don't want to go too political. Let's just say one little thing that seems a bit outrageous.
And another one was from You've Got the Nerve. You better pack your job in fast, else you're never going to grow. Which is kind of is that kind of that sentiment of well, a lot of places in the world where you have that standard way of living, where you go to
Of
school, you get a job locally, and that's your life basically. You get a
Yeah.
wife or something, and that's your
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
Is that kind of a reference to that to kind of take
Yeah.
some
I mean,
risk every once in a while?
I think so. I mean, you're never going to develop as a person if you're living in perpetual comfort.
Mm,
Especially now, like when you finish your job and you come home and you've got the boredom machine, you know, like, so there's no escape now. Like you're never gonna get out of like we're already over here, like in England and the West, like not it's good to be able to have jobs. I'm not saying like it's good to be able to work and earn a living. I know there's places in the world where people would die just to have a job, you
Mm,
know. I would never want us to say that, complain like, oh, we've got it so hard because we haven't, but we are living in a place where we have more opportunity to do things we want to do, even if we have to work nine to five, there's still time to
sure.
develop outside of that job. If you're doing something you really hate, then you have to make time outside of that job to develop as a person, whether that be through art or through the interests, because life is brief, man. Like I got people I knew died of cancer in their
Mm,
30s. Like
mm,
we're not all guaranteed to live to 18, 19 and to have this, like you could die any time,
sure.
like I'm sure we all have people who we know who died out of nowhere, you know, who just thought everything was fine and then you find out you're ill and then you're dead. And then that's
Yeah.
it. Like who knows what happens after you die? Hopefully it's really magical and awesome, but you don't know. So it's kind of like whilst you're here, it's sort of I feel like even if you're tired, even if you're whatever, just make the fucking effort to do something you enjoy, no matter what it
Mm.
is. It doesn't have to be art, it can be anything. It can be as long as it's not scrolling on your phone. I mean, if that's the only thing you like, then that I promise you, there's something else that you like that's not that. You got to figure it out. But yeah, no, it's just a reference to like I've found in my life the times where I developed and grew the most were the times where I did things that I was terrified of. You know, like I was working a job in a drum shop for years. Like and like it was I thought I loved it, but it was like it was retail. I was just 9 5 and I love drums, but after a while it wears off, So I quit that, and it was so sad. I didn't want to quit, but I felt like I had to. And and it's almost like when you take that leap, like something else is going to happen, like you're
Mm,
shifting your kind of energy where you're saying like I ain't doing this, I'm going to do something else, and it will come whatever it is. Like I quit that, and then I learned how to do videos in the time that I'd freed up, and then I ended up making videos. It changed my whole life. I ended up earning money from making videos, which I way more enjoyed. And if
mm.
I'd been too scared to do that, which I nearly was, like I would have changed everything, so it's just taking risks, it doesn't mean be thoughtless, but it
I'm
means
so reckless or
yeah,
anything. No.
don't yeah, do think about these things. You don't want to, but life's going to go quick, basically. And it's like, if you found out you had a year to live, you would not sit in that same fucking job. You would figure out a way to go and do the things you've always wanted to do. And that's
Yeah.
the thing, getting in that mindset of like, you're going to be dead very soon is
So no, but with that in mind, then this will be my last question. But
okay.
what is the ambition then for the band? What is the when
Hmm.
this is gonna sound too contrived. When will the band for you be a success?
Oh, it already is. I like because I'm doing the thing that I love. It's like I just love writing music. It's been a success since the day me and Will started writing together because I found something that made me feel so happy.